Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more esports news. A great debate currently going on, brought to us first of all by Devin Nash. A great video I will link down below for all of you. The argument of whether or not the Call of Duty League can survive and whether or not franchise leagues belong in esports. Very debatable topic. You guys, as always, can leave a comment down below what you think about this. For today's episode, though, going to focus on the future of the Call of Duty League. It's going to be a franchise league, whether called CDL or CWL. We're not really sure yet, although Optic might have leaked that information a bit early. Coming in 2020, will it be successful? Are the prices so far really worth it? And the viewership and branding and sponsors that come along with it, will it be ROI positive? Will it have a return for all the organizations involved or the select few who can actually afford a spot in it? So I'm going to touch on both the negatives as well as the positives. You guys can, of course, leave your thoughts down below. Will it work out is the giant overall question. Let's break it down, guys. The Call of Duty League franchise, can it be successful? And when it comes to people talking about this, I'm giving my 2 cents. Devin Nash has a great video. Richard Lewis has several topics about this. He's talked about, I think, one of the few people out there currently tied to an organization who has actually kind of distressed his displeasure with the future of franchise leagues not belonging in esports would be FaZe Banks. Besides that, rightfully so, and probably for good reason, a lot of organizational members are not talking about this, or at least expressing their worries about this, because they often are already owners of those spots themselves, and they're not going to come out and trash talk their own spots with that. But the very first negative out there is single-handedly the price point of the Call of Duty World League. I'm going to call it CWL for the video. It might be CDL, but until Activision actually releases that data, I will call it the CWL. Anywhere from price points, though, of $25 million to $50 million, along with the Overwatch League being around those same price points. All of these being said, it makes the LEC, the LCS, the League of Legends franchise spots out there, it makes them sound like a steal, especially when you look at viewership. It is absurd to see the disparity between Call of Duty. Yes, it might be a very, I would say, not stagnant, but a very consistent viewer base out there. It's not declining, but with that being said, when you compare it to League of Legends or Overwatch, it is not even in the same ballpark. So to somehow make the notion that $25 to $50 million will be worth it when we already have League of Legends or the LCS, the LEC, already kind of worried about ROI positive and how long-term that's going to be. Overwatch League, they've had stagnated and declining viewership as well. And when it comes time for return on investment, both those leagues are already struggling. And we hop into our second negative point here. If they are already struggling when it comes time for returns on investment, and it's already been a couple of years for one, that being Overwatch, and it's already been several years for League of Legends, still struggling with sponsors to actually make their money back. When you look at viewership overall for Call of Duty, it is not even close. It's actually 10 times less the viewership of Fortnite. League of Legends, the same thing, about 10 times more popular than Call of Duty average viewership throughout the past 30 days, which I think does give a general gist of what we can expect for the future of Call of Duty, although there are a few positive points I'll touch on in a couple of minutes. And even when it comes to Overwatch League with declining viewership, they still have 4 times the numbers of that of Call of Duty Black Ops 4. So it's pretty crazy to see when you actually try and constitute the price points of $25 to $50 million, how it can actually be worth that. When you look strictly at the viewership numbers, which do bring in people, they bring in consumers and eventually bring in sponsors and partners, how can you really validate yourself to be worthy of a $25 to $50 million evaluation for each and every CWL spot? Statistically, it does not make any sense. Now, also hopping off that, it comes to limitation of teams we have seen in other franchise leagues. That being obviously, as of right now, what do we have? 7 cities announced, along with around 7-ish teams besides Minnesota, who we don't really exactly know yet. LA going to be Optic as well with 5 other cities. We still have many teams out there who could be cut out entirely of the league, and with that might go some of their fan base. Because the future of the phases, the 100 Thieves, the Heretics, even Optic themselves, we all know the rift right now between that team because it will not be Hector's Optic. Who knows what viewership will actually watch that, especially if the squad does not stay together. We've already talked about this on the channel. Relocation of at least part of that roster. Crimsic, Scumpy, will it even happen in the first place or for a prolonged future? There are so many teams out there that are rising or pretty solid teams with very diverse and large backgrounds who likely will not land a spot, and even if some of them do and some of them don't, you're cutting off a portion of your community right there. And pretty much if you get cut off from a franchise league, how do you really survive as an organization is another ultimate question that will go unanswered until 2020 does come around and we have Activision release, if anything else, other tournaments that can keep these other organizations afloat while they actually could not afford a $25 to $50 million spot, which we're not even sure is even worth it for the teams to be in. And so we could even have, let's say this is a crazy moment, we could have teams that did not pay that much money doing a lot better than the teams who had to sacrifice $50 million to participate in a league, which could ultimately come to a crash. trash. Not to mention it will be a city-based model. So of course the whole skew there could be, if we're going to do a city-based model, if you're going to be in Minneapolis, if you're going to be in Chicago, whatever the cities, LA, whatever they might be, will you actually draw in the audience from that location? Is that location easily digested into Call of Duty Esports? Can they actually watch that? Do they want to support the team locally because they are from their city? That's a really doubtful point, right? It's a very, very interesting thing to see in Overwatch as well, because Overwatch is incredibly harder to digest and understand from an outside perspective, and I don't think we've seen that carryover. So Call of Duty, is it more easily digestible, and can we see a larger part of audience from the cities they are based in actually watch the esport? I really do think so. Will it be a large sum of people, though, to make up for it? That's where I really am not sure about. And also, ultimately, when it comes to brand-friendly games out there, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO, is one of the very few which are very well noted to not be brand-friendly, right? They have counter-terrorists, they have blood and gore, the kind of the notions you don't really want to hit on if you're trying to acquire a sponsor or a brand or a partnership for your league. If CSGO ever went that route, Call of Duty falls along the same lines. You have your somewhat of terrorist groups or your team groups, however they are derived. You have tons of blood and gore, and it's a game that is based off real-life weapons. And with that being said, Devin Nash did make a great point. This will not be a brand-friendly league whatsoever when compared to League of Legends and Overwatch, who are already struggling with cartoon characters and made-up fictitious characters, are already struggling to bring in sponsors in the first place. Now you bring in blood and gore, real-life weapons, real-life terrorists across this game. Will it be able to acquire sponsors in the first place? Again, these are all the negatives put into one, and it does not sound good whatsoever. You have an absurdly priced league. Viewership is way down compared to other franchise leagues who are already struggling to bring in sponsors in the first place. When it comes to bringing in those sponsors, you are not a brand-friendly game. You're city-based. Well, cities actually draw in enough attention to make up for that deficit, and you're also limiting your teams that can compete to what is it, 10 to 12 CWL teams, to 10 to 12 cities, to 10 to 12 organizations, which ultimately means someone will get cut out with a large portion of the audience or a lot of their own fan base, which likely won't be too interested. I guess they will still watch, but those are 5 negative points that are very heavily against the Call of Duty League. Now, the happy part, okay? There are positives, okay? And I really look forward to reading some of the comments out there, because a few of you love to write paragraphs of, and hopefully you guys can make your own list of the negatives and the positives. So far, we have had 5 negatives. I have about 2 to 3 positives, and I think it is looking very good. I don't want you guys to think that I'm not a Call of Duty fan. I am super excited for the CWL, however it might be, because first of all, we are going to have a brand new game every single year. That's one thing that other brands cannot really do. We have not seen a franchise league so far actually be able to do that, a brand new game every single year. Although we do have rumors of Overwatch 2, we know that could be a total tank. With Call of Duty, yes, we are going to have a brand new game every single year for CWL to play. It will keep part of the viewer base very fresh, but also a negative off of that, we have seen very, very bad games in the past couple of years for Call of Duty, and so CWL will have to survive with those bad games as they will thrive with the good ones. And with that, bouncing off into a second positive, we could see Modern Warfare be a very, very good game. I've had a video about this as well, because Modern Warfare is the first Call of Duty game to go to the CWL. It could be a fresh set of eyes to actually reinvigorate the game. On top of that, the very first ever Call of Duty title to be cross-platform, as I'm sure you guys know. This has very high potential to do some great things for viewership, but will it tenfold viewership? Will it 4 times viewership to equal Overwatch? That's the giant mystery to even make it worth it, and that's tough to see. I do think viewership will flourish when CWL is first released, just like we saw with Overwatch though, and ever since then, you do tend to see that. So Call of Duty can keep it fresh. They will have the good games along with the bad games, and with that being said, they will be cross-platform though, which these other franchise leagues, they can't offer you. So we will see how it does affect things, and those are some pretty vast positives. And lastly, and probably most importantly, do not forget guys, Activision Blizzard now takes part in both of these franchise leagues, that being OWL and CWL as well, because of the parent companies Activision and Blizzard. And with that, we do expect, it's not confirmed quite yet, but very much expected. Of course, ESPN with the first exclusive partner, one of the biggest partnership broadcast deals ever seen in esports. They currently do broadcast the Overwatch League, so we can expect for CWL the same thing to happen, and that alone should boost viewership pretty substantially, I would say. So that's a big partnership. We do expect a crossover from the Overwatch League as well as the CWL. Of course, for Activision Blizzard, and the partnership with ESPN probably should carry over. And so we only have 3 positives. We have several negatives, but with those 3 positives being said, they are some pretty big ones, right? Cross-platform, fresh Call of Duties, and ESPN broadcast partnership, and possibly more backing from Activision to actually push their game and maybe not push microtransactions so goddamn much. All right, I am completely out of breath. I gave it you guys my all, and I gave you guys all my positives and negatives so far about the future of Call of Duty League. I really do highly recommend, though, if you guys want a great video on this, Devin Nash's video will be linked down below. He does a great informative 20-minute talk about the positives and negatives of this as well, and goes much more into greater detail about the negatives of the future of Call of Duty League. And when you really do think about it, though, yes, there are plenty of positives. There are plenty of bright sides to this, and I do think viewership will do very well for Call of Duty, although my only worry is I do think it'll last a couple of years easily. When it comes to the prolonged future, though, of the organizations who risk the money to get inside of it, that's where it does worry me, because we have had videos about the esports bubble, and there could be insane repercussions for teams out there who dole out so much cash if they want to be in League, if they want to be in Overwatch, if they want to be in Call of Duty all at the same time, or only a couple of them, or only one of them. If you are putting forth that much capital into a league which could collapse and your return could be nothing, it's very, very dangerous times for organizations out there, and I don't think many really realize the risk that's at hand, especially when it comes to outside investment. So I hope you guys all enjoyed, though. My name is Jake. Welcome to Esports News, but also goodbye. I'll see you guys next time, all right? Thank you for watching. Until then, take care, drink coffee.